guys, Dr. Axe here, and I want to talk about what causes inflammation. And there's a lot of debate on this. A lot of people don't understand the actual pathways that go into it. And we're going to talk about omega-3s and omega-6s and how that plays into reducing inflammation naturally. And we're also going to talk about NSAIDs, pain medication, and how all this works and some steps that you can start to take today to start to reduce inflammation in your body. Because inflammation is the cause of all disease. So if you can start to understand this pathway and make changes, you're going to start to reverse disease immediately. So let's start with linoleic acid and omega-6s. So on this pathway, a lot of people think omega-6s cause inflammation, but that's not necessarily true. So things like grains, corn, seeds, those are omega-6s, and those can actually be anti-inflammatory in the right conditions. If you get good quality omega-6s and you go down this pathway, you're going to decrease inflammation. Now here is the problem and why omega-6s get a bad rap. If you have too many of them, that can be a problem. And particularly when your insulin levels are not correct. And now that doesn't mean you have diabetes. Diabetes guarantees we have an insulin problem, but a lot of people have they have unoptimal levels of glucose-insulin interaction. And things that cause that, sugary, high glycemic index foods, and so forth. So that will cause this anti-inflammatory of omega-6s to shunt over into arachidonic acid, okay? And this is now in the pro-inflammatory pathway. So it's not just what you eat, but it's other hormone insulin levels in your body that can cause an inflammatory response. So the number one step that you guys need to do is reduce sugars and high glycemic index foods. And that will immediately change the inflammatory pathway in your body from pro-inflammatory and immediately to anti-inflammatory. So if you have diabetes, those issues have to be dealt with first. Okay? And now let's shift over here to the pro-inflammatory side. The second thing that will cause inflammation in your body is just grain-fed, poor quality animal products. Okay? A grain-fed cow is going to cause inflammation. A grass-fed cow is going to decrease inflammation. So anything grain-fed, GMO, eggs, things like that, again, things that are eating grains instead of grasses, those products are going to lead to inflammation because those things are converted into arachidonic acid. And then from there, a lot of people are familiar with COX-1 and 2, and that pathway leads to inflammation. Now, there's two ways. The good news is we're still okay. We can still recover from this, even if we've gone all the way this far. There's two ways to treat it. One is NSAIDs, okay? Aleve, Tylenol, things like that. And now when we take pain medications like that, it inhibits and blocks this pathway. The problem with that is inflammation is good in small amounts. So we want a little bit of that inflammation so our body can heal. Now the second option, which I prefer, things like ginger, turmeric, boswellia, those things modulate this pathway. So if you're getting too much inflammation, it will stop it. If you're getting the right amount of inflammation, it will keep the pathway open. So it modulates instead of inhibits. So again, these are amazing compounds and herbs you can start to add to your daily regimen today to decrease inflammation in your body, okay? The second way we talked about was improving your glucose insulin by removing sugary, high glycemic index foods. And the third way is just by changing the quality of the foods that you eat, by changing to grass-fed animal products instead of grain-fed. So those are the top three things you can do right now to start to reduce inflammation and how these pathways work in your body. Thanks.